Hey guys, Lord here, back in with another action figure review. And I know it has been a hot minute since I did one of these, but I figured in time for the spooky season, I'd get off my lazy keister and start doing videos again. Cause, why not? Dare I say, why not? But today, got something very special for you guys. So today we'll be taking a look at the Mezco Toys 1/12 Collective Ghost Rider from Marvel Comics. Not to be confused with that other big comic book company out there. I believe their name is Malibu, right? I'm just kidding, of course. That is a indie comic book company from the 90s that is probably long since debunked. So, with that being said, before we get into the meat and taters of this review, let's first take a look-see at Ghost Rider's accessories, starting off with the plethora of alternate hands he comes with, because that's what Mezco does. Although I will say, compared to the Dr. Fate and Blade figures I have from this line, Ghost Rider himself, relatively light on accessories, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I mean, he did cost $250 after tax and shipping, so it would have been nice to get, I don't know, something else, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And I did buy the darn thing after all, so obviously it wasn't too expensive for me, but I am a sucker when it comes to anything Ghost Rider, so maybe I'm not the best one to ask these types of things to. That said, it does come with a pair of grip hands. Kung Fu grip hands, to be exact. Probably for holding on to the handlebars of that motorcycle he's got there. He also has a pair of open hands, or style posy hands, or jazz hands, or better yet, turn your head and cough hands. Oh yeah! It's been a while. I gotta remember all the goofy crap I used to do during these videos. And on top of that, he does come with another open hand. Not a turn your head and cough hand, unfortunately. As well as a trigger finger hand, but no gun. And last I checked, Disney wasn't as lame as Warner Brothers when it came to certain things like guns, so I don't know why he doesn't have a gun, but he does have a trigger finger hand. That said, I do have a shotgun with blade, so I guess I could give him that. I'm keeping this hand handy, get it? Haha, for a moment. You do get this flame effect that you can just kind of slip over this somehow. I forget exactly how, but it does slide onto this hand. It is kind of hard to do. Yeah, I don't... Of course, I probably should have... There we go. I was going to say, I probably should have done that before I started recording, but you can't say I don't give it to you raw AF here on Overlord Productions, so we're going to Bill O'Reilly this sucker until the cows come home. But there you go. There's the flame effect there. And then he also comes with a little fireball, which you can kind of balance in this hand. Not going to lie, I think the flame effects are kind of lame. I would have liked one for his mouth, so he can light you on fire like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Get over here! Because that would have been sick. But speaking of Scorpion, he does come with the flame and chain like he does. Which, this one kind of stinks. It's kind of looped. It just looks like a big oval. Almost a circle. That is not a circle, kids. That is an oval. It should be more like this. I guess you could heat it up and kind of adjust it, but it's kind of, thick here and relatively thin here. You wouldn't want to, like, risk damaging it. So, not the best flamey chain there, I will say. That said, if he is holding it in his hand, there is a good chance you could get it to rest on the ground. So that's kind of neat. Speaking of kind of neat, we do also get this bendy wire chain, which is all metal all the time. And yeah, you could pose it around and stuff. It looks relatively streamlined as far as the engineering goes. You don't really see that wire. But I will say, if you bend it too far, the chain will start to kind of droop a bit, which should be obvious. It is a wire after all. And I will say, I do wish that the handles on the ends were plastic or PVC as opposed to this die cast, because it does weigh it down a bit. You can see there, so that kind of defeats the purpose of having the wire, in my opinion. But I will say, For those of you Toddy Mac fans out there, I can find it here. If you did buy the She-Spawn figure from the Spawn Universe line, I think that came out last year. All I know is that thing went on clearance for like 12 bucks. Yeah, if you don't feel stupid for paying the full 40 bucks for it by now, you have a problem. But she did come with this big, long, whippy chain that was wrapped around one of her guns, so you could give him this. And I will probably give him this, if I'm being honest with you, because it does hang nicely. And I can wrap it around his gauntlet, glove, whatever you want to call it there. Which is a nice, sturdy PVC plastic material that won't get damaged like his clothes, if I were to do that. Because I like to wrap the chain around the wrist, you know. I think that's a cool look. That said, we also get the trademark, not McFarlane Toys display stand, that's a different company, but Mezco Toys display stand with this cool Ghost Rider pick on there. That's pretty rad. And of course we get the big honkin', I think overkill in some aspects, but we get the stand. Trademark Mezco stand. So that is your lot. That is all you get for Ghost Rider himself. His bike does have these two flame effects here, but to save on time, because this is a Mezco video, I'm going to wait and show you guys everything put together towards the end during final thoughts, just so we're not here for hopefully longer than 20 minutes or so. So, that said, let's take a closer look at the man of the hour. Move this out of the way. Johnny Blaze. At least I think it's Johnny Blaze. It definitely doesn't give me Danny Ketch vibes because he is lacking a buttload of spikes, but, you know, it is what it is. I like this figure, you know, I think it's pretty rad, but I will say this material makes me nervous AF because it is relatively thin, and I don't want to rip it. Like, I literally made sure my nails weren't too sharp before I started filming this sucker because I want to damage it on camera. I look like a doofus. So, as far as articulation goes, the head can rotate, but it has a tendency to pop off due to the light-up mechanism in there, which we will go over. But for those of you who watch my Dr. Fate review, it's kind of like that, but it doesn't screw in, lock into place. So it's kind of problematic in that regard. But mine stays in. It's not falling out. But you do just kind of gotta cram it in there like a $2 hooker on a Friday night, you know? So, you know, not the best, but it does stay in there for me. That said, his shoulders do go out to the side. They go back down. They do rotate, but again, I'm not going to rotate it too far because I don't want to mess up that material. It does appear to have some kind of butterfly, but it's very restricted, probably because of the socket for the light-up gimmick. He does have bicep twist, somewhat. It's pretty locked in, though, because of the material, again. So you're not going to get a ton out of that. He does have a double elbow. Again, not going to bend it all the way, but you can get 90 out of it. Straightening it back out very, very slowly to make sure nothing gets pinched in the elbow. He does have a gauntlet or a glove swivel as well. And his wrists are on little ball hinge joints that do work quite well. I would say Mezco's got slightly better ball hinge wrists than McFarlane, just because they get a little bit more range. They're not as obvious, even though they are more that ball shape. And for the most part, the hands are relatively easy to pop off. I will say, though, I would advise heating the hands. I would not heat this figure because you don't want to damage the material. Again, all goes back to the material. But before you pop a hand on, heat it up if it's giving you problems, just so you don't damage anything. He does have a diaphragm joint, which does work quite well. And he does seem to have a ball jointed weight, so he can crunch forward pretty well. He can crunch back pretty well, too. So that's nice. And I don't really feel like the material's getting pinched in there, necessarily. There's enough here to where that doesn't feel like it's a problem. It can rotate there too, but I don't want to, again, I don't want to mess it up. I will say his collar is wired here, where the zipper is. Actually, no. It's up here. Up here towards the top. The top half of the collar is wired. But I will tell you, be careful with this back piece, especially with these flames. They are kind of sharp. You don't want to cut that up, rotating the head or putting it on or anything like that. That said, his hips can kick forward. They could probably do about 90, but again, I don't want to push it too far. They can kick back down. They can kick out. If you only have one going, you can almost do a split, but again, I don't want to damage the material. He does have a thigh cut. That works just fine. He's got a double knee. Again, being careful with that. Don't want to stretch the pants too far. And then you want to kind of gently sort of straighten that back out. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I just said words. What do you want? Been on hiatus for 7 months, people. This show is free. Get what you pay for. He's got a boot cut. And then he's got the double ball peg in the foot. But I will say, Mezco does not get the best ankle range. I feel like they need to update the ankles. I will say this one, they're about the same. Not great in the feet. But other than that, articulation's pretty good, considering the materials that make me want to... So, there you go. He can stand. He is capable of standing on his own. But I would advise having the feet bent like that, so you can do that. But that is your Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. Oh, also he's got a hinged jaw, too, which probably dropped during the video, because mine's kind of loose, but better loose than tight and fragile, you know? That said, before we take a look at the bike, he does have a light-up mechanism in the head. And thankfully, I was able to get the whole thing out. Now, the head comes off of this piece, this little cylindrical piece here. I'm going to save a little bit of time and not do that, but what you want to do is you want to take this off, and you want to split this thing up the middle, essentially, and that's where your batteries are. They give you batteries. I mean, it's $250 after tax and shipping, so, you know, they better. And he does have a little switch here, and if I can remember which way it goes, should be lighting up right there, which looks pretty rad. I will do a bit of a shot of this with the lights off, but it does have a bit of flicker in there, kind of like a strobe light for Halloween time. So that is cool. I will say, that is pretty epic compared to the other light-up Ghost Rider toys I've looked at on this channel. Make sure I turned it off there. But I will say, getting this thing back in here is a pain in the nuts. So, if I can get it in there, where it will stay, there you go. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for government work. We all know how much they like to work. So, setting him to the side on my nice light gray paper backdrop. Hopefully it cuts out on some of the glare and stuff getting washed out if it's a lighter color. Let's look at this hell cycle here. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am a connoisseur of Ghost Rider motorcycles at this point in time, at least in my personal and pseudo-professional opinion. I'm not crazy about the way this thing looks. It looks a little bit more like the Alejandro Jones bike, which sucks because we still don't have a Alejandro Jones Ghost Rider figure, period. Not even like a Mini Mates or a whatever, some whatever figure of her. But if there was one, this would be really good for it because it looks more like her bike than, say, Johnny Blaze's. Personally, I think Johnny Blaze should have like a chopper or a Harley. But let's be honest, Vengeance probably has the coolest bike out of all the Ghost Riders. Let's not kid ourselves. It's a demon chopper with a skull on the front, a rib cage for a gas tank. It's freaking awesome. But this, for what it is pretty cool. Now I will say, you don't want to manhandle this thing because it does have all these little tubers and things on the side. Bring it a little closer, you can see all those details. be careful with those. I don't know if they're PVC or what, but they do have some give to them, but you definitely don't want to push down on those because you could snap and break them, and then you'd be crying like a sad, sad little collector child. That said, it does have a kickstand that does flip up, but I would advise keeping this thing out at all times just because this thing did cost $250 after tax and shipping. I'm going to reiterate that probably several more times throughout this video, just so you know. But you don't want anything to happen to this, okay? It does rotate in the front here. The wheels do turn, both in the front and in the back. Relatively stiff, though, so you're not really going to roll this on the ground, I'll say. Not easily, anyways. That said, there is a battery compartment underneath. Just got to get a certain screwdriver, pop that lid off, and then you can flip this switch. And hopefully you can hear this. But there are two little buttons on the gas tank. There's one on this side, one on that side. Relatively well hidden, I'll say. And when you press them, it does this. And this. Let's look at the back, too. And again, I will show you this with the lights off, but really cool, man. And the plus side, the lights will stay on for about, I want to say, a minute's time. So that's plenty of time for you to get your toy photography on and get some good shots of this thing before the lights go out. And of course, you flip the switch on the bottom, and that's your lot. So yeah, man, cool piece. I'll say, I dig it, but at the same time, it costs $250 after tax and shipping, so a little bit on the steep side as far as the price point goes, but I obviously bought it. I'm happy with it for the most part. I do think that you need to be careful with the clothing on Ghost Rider. It is that pleather material, and you do not want to damage this thing, because I heard Mezco's customer service is kind of crap, like NECA's. And they're also the type of company that I feel gets off on the scent of their own farts. So, you know, take that for what you will. But, you know, you can't throw up a almost $300 item and not give any updates for 2 years. That's just not cool. Four Horsemen don't even do that. We all know we've waited a long arse time for some of their stuff to ship to us. So, with that being said, let's now move right along. Take a look-see at some size comparisons. But before we move on to all of that, as promised, here's a closer look at Ghost Rider atop his mighty Hell Cycle in the dead of night. And what an awesome sight it is. Unfortunately, though, it appears that the Hell Cycle glows better than Ghost Rider himself. I say as it shuts off. Come on, you. Which is a tad unfortunate because isn't Ghost Rider the draw here? That said, hot take, maybe mine's batteries are just going bad and I need to get them out ASAP before they start leaking, but they have been in there for a while, so I'll cut them some slack. Maybe it's just the batteries. That said, this bike does look really cool with the lights out. And those effects really sell it too. It sounds like a freaking kaiju, doesn't it? And I also took the liberty of throwing on the flame effects. They might be chunky pieces, but the bike does a good job making them look like they're on fire, as Van Halen used to say in the olden days. So, with all that being said, before this thing shuts off again, let's now move right along and take a look at those size comparisons, shall we? Taking a look at some size comparisons, and here is good old Johnny Blaze from fine folks over at Mezco Toys, alongside good old Johnny Blaze and, you guessed it, good old Johnny Blaze, both from Toy Biz and Hasbro. And on top of the fact that these are all Ghost Rider action figures of good old Johnny Blaze, I had to say it again, couldn't resist, they're all Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider action figures that I got that came with motorcycles. Now, I do have a Ghost Rider action figure from the 2006 or 7, was it? Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie that came packaged with a motorcycle, but unfortunately I do not have that motorcycle at this current time. Maybe someday, but it's kind of pricey on the secondary market, if you know what I'm saying. Yeesh. But I do have one nonetheless. I don't know if that gets me brownie points with anyone, because I know that movie is a mixed bag for some people, but hey, I like it. I also like the Spawn movie, so sue me. That said, moving him out of the way and bringing in some Ghost Rider villains like Big Bad Blackheart here. Also from Toy Biz, come to think of it. One of the most hardest Toy Biz Marvel Legends to stand, by the way, because he's got the crazy, degenerate chicken gargoyle werewolf legs. Then if we move the Hasbro offering out of the way here, let's bring in something that I'm sure a lot of you out there may or may not have. Just gonna flex for a minute here. Here's the Marvel Select Mephistopheles, as the band Ghost likes to say, you know, in that song Little Sunshine. From Diamond Select, of course. And yeah, I think this Mezco Ghost Rider scales quite nicely with these two. You know, old Mephisto and Blackheart are meant to be larger characters in the Marvel Universe, so I'm kind of glad that Engine of Vengeance failed, because that Mephisto was insulting to me as a Gargoyles fan. That's one of my three loves, but it's not what we're talking about right here. Ghost Rider fan, let me reiterate, because that thing was about the same size as this Mezco Ghost Rider here. Maybe to the top of his flames, but way too short if you ask me. He doesn't need to be a giant, but he should be a little taller than the average Marvel Universe character, if you ask yours truly. And if we're talking gargoyles, yeah, they should be bigger than all these guys here too. That said, moving Blackheart out of the way, have our two regulars, Brother Mandibulus, because it wouldn't be an Overlord Productions video without both Brother Mandibulus. Moving Mephisto out of the way also. Of course, have to bring in the infamous 11 Spawn, who is yet to be replaced by another Spawn. Maybe someday, just like that movie Ghost Rider bike, but not today. So, yeah, because these are 7-inch figures, they are a little bit taller than, I'm going to say it again, good old Johnny Blaze here. So, with that being said, let's now move on and wrap things up. Some final thoughts. But before we wrap things up with final thoughts here, I just wanted to take a quick look at the Mezco 112th Collective Ghost Rider bike alongside the Toy Biz and Hasbro Ghost Rider bikes here. So first up, this is the Toy Biz one. I think the Ghost Rider figure in question was released in Series 7 of the Toy Biz Marvel Legends line, which was, if you can believe it, almost 20 years ago, which is kind of wild at this point. Time flies when you're buying stuff you don't need, I guess. Moving this out of the way. This big shield thing does come off, by the way, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, so I'm not going to do that. What's not a pain in the butt is the Hasbro offering. A, it stands better, and B, you can take the front shield thingy off. I can do it without popping the flames off. There you go. So you have a more traditional, kind of Harley looking motorcycle there. But that is your Hell Cycle comparison for at least my review. I don't know if anyone else has done it, but can't say I didn't. So with that being said, once again, let's wrap things up. Some final thoughts. Overall, and at the end of the day, I'm sure the question that all of you are asking yourselves right now is, was it worth the $250 after tax and shipping? Well, I'm going to be 110% honest with you in saying that all depends on what type of collector and or person you are. That said, if you're a big Ghost Rider fan like me, that might not seem like that big of a deal. That said, if you're also one who doesn't make a whole lot of extra money for this stuff like me, that may seem like a big deal. but what matters is, do you want it? Do you have to have it? At the end of the day, I obviously ponied up the $250 after tax and shipping to have this thing, because if I didn't, I'd probably hate myself for an extended period of time. You know, eventually I'd get over it, but I'll be honest with you, if I didn't have this thing right now, I'd be like, what the heck were you smoking? And can I have some? Because this thing, while I do think it's a bit pricey for what you're getting, I do quite like it. I like having it. I enjoy having it. I'm glad I bought it. But again, Mezco toys, you need to quit getting off on the scent of your own farts, maybe, and be a little bit more communicative with your quote-unquote fan base / customers, because, you know, 2 years was a long wait, and I wasn't the only one getting sick of not hearing anything, because I bought this from the fine folks over at Big Bad Toy Store, and to say that they were a little bit miffed that this was getting delayed and delayed and delayed some more with no updates, yeah, it kind of annoyed them too. That said, also, as awesome as BBTS is, they're not going to replace something after I've had it for almost half a year. So, you know, the quality of this thing, well, I think it's fine. I think it's good. I think it could have been a little better for the price point. There are some fragile bits on the motorcycle, as mentioned, and I do think that the pleather, leather, whatever you want to call it, materials they used for Ghost Rider's outfit here, you could tear those after a while. So, you know, as always with something you spend a buttload of money on, use caution. Take some precautions to make sure you don't mess it up, because, again, well, I'm sure BBTS would have helped me a while ago. It's probably too late for that now. So, you know, word of the wise, don't break your toys. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my first review in a hot minute. Hopefully it wasn't too long. And until next time, I will catch you guys later.